Okay, in this part, we're going to create forms so we can create an interface for our users to be able to insert records into this database. Let's look at the database tools here so we can see the relations between our entities as a review from what we've done last time. So for this part, I am going to create a couple forms. So it's not going to be the complete form set for the whole database. So I'm going to limit it to where we have a form that allows us to enter clients. And I am going to also create a set of forms that will allow us to update products based on the manufacturer for that particular product. So what is it I am not going to do right now? The transaction form, or to actually manage the event of a transaction. We will leave that for the next part. So at this stage, I want to keep it simple. I just need a form for client, and I will need a form for the updating of products, either to modify them or add a new product or remove a product. But at the same time, keeping track of who the manufacturer is. Okay? So that is my objective for now. Okay, well, let's get started. So the way you're going to do this, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables. We're going to start with the client. We're going to create an interface for client. Let's look at client as a table. So we have 6 records in there. And so I would like to create a form that allows me to see those records, navigate through these records, and update these records. Okay. All right, so the way to do this, you go to Create, and notice here you have all your utilities, starting with tables, which we've done before, queries, which we will do in another video, but we're going to be in forms. And forms really is where this application is really, really good. You have so many ways to create forms. What I'm going to do is go to Form Wizard. So I'm going to keep it really simple. So if you're not sure, a lot of times you're better off starting with a Form Wizard that has some default settings, and it will do most of the work that you want. And we're going to see for this instance that I'm going to modify it anyway. So first, let's go ahead and create a default form using the Form Wizard based on client, based on its fields, and then we'll do some filtering to make sure that we only need the fields that are editable. In our case, think about it. First name and last name are fields we want to edit. Client ID we don't really want to touch because that will be generated since it is an auto number, right? That was in our design prior to this. So if I go to Design View for this one, you could see that the client ID is an auto number, all right? So we don't want, as a user, to be entering values in the client ID. Let the system handle that. So let me just go ahead and close all for now. Let's go ahead and create our form again. So create, and I'm going to go to Form Wizard. And as you can see, it picks up on which table you want. So you can click here if you want another table. In our case, we want client table, right? So table client. And let's include all these 3 fields. So you have this double arrow here that allows you to do that. So if I hit finish, all right, that will simply use the default settings for setting up this form. Otherwise, you can hit next and start customizing here and there. How do you want this form to look like, so on and so forth. Right now, I'm just going to hit finish. Okay, so we're going to create a raw, simple, default form, and let's do that. And as you can see, here we go, it's generated. So we have a form that has 3 fields and 3 labels, and it is called client. And notice that here under forms now I have a new group. I have client. And if you look below here where my mouse is, you will see that I also have 1 of 6 current records. So, and I have navigation buttons, right? So you could click on next. As you can see, it's moving through my records. Next, the next record, next, the next record, next, the next record. So I have 5 of 6, 6 of 6. Now what if I wanted to add a new record? So I'm going to click here, or you can click here. So next record will give you a blank, or new blank record. Let's do that, right? But notice here the order of preference for the focus on a field is on the client ID. We don't want that because you could easily, by mistake, enter a value that you're not supposed to enter. And remember, the client ID is a primary key that is an auto key. So we want the system to do that for us. So I'm going to have to modify the form so this does not happen. As it stands, if you give your database to someone to use, they might not know that and then create a problem. So for now, let's go ahead and create a new record, assuming we know what we're doing. So I'm going to leave client ID alone. I'm going to go to first name, and I am going to do Robert, and last name would be Mitchum. There you go. Right? So, and if I hit next, now I'm going to 8 of 8, but at least I know I have 7 records. What can we prove that? Let's go to client table. Let me double click on that, and sure enough, my 7th record is Robert Mitchum. Okay? So I'm going to close that. I can close the client now, right there. Now, if you want to open it, this is the way you would open it. Now, I'm not happy with the fact that I have a field here that can be edited, and it could create confusion. So can we solve this? Can we actually customize this form, at least at this level, to make sure that this field, now it's up to you. Do you want it to appear or not appear? And if you want it to appear, can you make it read-only? And the answer is yes. You can make it appear here so you can actually see the IDs associated with the records, right, or your clients, but you cannot edit. Okay, well, you need to edit the form itself. So you could right mouse click on the form and go to design view. Okay, good. So as you can see here in design view, now we're going to spend some time designing forms from scratch in another video. As you can see here, the system itself created, since I used the form wizard, created the forms for me, organized them, and so on. But it assumed that the client ID field is editable. So notice I'm clicking on it here, right? And notice it's got some properties here, okay, on this end here. Formatting properties, data properties, events, and so on. So again, we will get to see all of this. But right now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to make it enabled. I'm going to leave it visible, but not enabled, which means you cannot edit this field. So I'm going to click here and say no. Now notice how it got highlighted in gray. So it's a read-only field. Okay, well, let's see if that took effect. So I'm going to right mouse click, go to form view, and there you go. So if I try to click here, my mouse has no effect on that field. Okay, well, let's go ahead and add a new record. So I'm going to go ahead and at the bottom here, add a new record. Notice the keyword new here. So if you didn't want this to appear so it does not confuse people, you could have made it not visible. But right now it's a read-only. So even if I click on it, nothing happens. Let's go ahead and add a new record. Terence Hill. Okay, tell I watch a lot of spaghetti westerns. So here you go. So I'm going to click here. Let's see if Terrence is in there. And sure enough, and notice their ID is 8. It was auto-generated. Perfect. So now that's that part. So let me close it here. We don't need it. Open. Let's close this one also. And remember, it's asking me, do you want to save the changes? Absolutely. Otherwise, the client ID field will come back the way it was. So I'm going to say yes. Just double click on it just to check. Sure enough, it's still read-only. So now let's go ahead and close it. Now I'd like to create a form subform. And again, let me go back to my database tools, the relationship that includes manufacturer and product. So in this case, this form that I'm going to create will include 2 tables, or as long as they're related, we can do this. Okay. So this is going to be a form subform. And I can do this with the wizard. So as I said for today, for this video, I am simply going to use the form wizard. So nothing sophisticated, maybe a few adjustments here and there, and that's about it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave the relationships here, diagram, the ERD, and let's go ahead and create. And I'm going to go to Form Wizard. And this time I'm going to pick on the one side, the manufacturer. Now, what do I want from the manufacturer to appear? Okay, I can pick all of them. Okay, so this allows me at any given time to update a new manufacturer and then, while I'm at it, insert some products. Aha. So notice here, I have all the fields that I need for manufacturer. However, now I'm going to pick another table, and it's going to be the product. And what do I want from the product? Now, it depends on the product ID here. Was it auto-generated or not? I'll check. So that would be the product here. Let me just hit a cancel. I'll come back to it. Go to product and go to design view. And no. So it is something you have to enter manually for the product ID. So that was important because I needed to know if I needed to include the product ID at all in there as a part of the subform. If it's auto-generated, like you saw before with the client ID, it just adds confusion unless you go to the extra step and make it a read-only. Okay, so let's go back to create, go to Form Wizard, and again, so we're starting over, manufacturer. I'm going to pick all the fields, that's good, and I'm going to pick the product. And for the product, I don't need the manufacturer ID since it will be synchronized based on that. So I definitely need a product ID, product name, description, and unit price. Okay? So notice the only one that I opted out is the manufacturer ID, since it's a foreign key inside the product table that is related or references to the primary key manufacturer ID in the manufacturer table. It is there. They're synchronized. I just don't need it to appear that as redundant. Okay? And now I can hit finish. That would be form subform automatically. Otherwise, it will ask you, is that what you want? If you hit next, notice the first thing it's asking is, do you want this to be a form subform? Right? Form with subforms. Otherwise, it will create two forms. There are really two forms here, but two separate forms that are called linked forms. And again, it depends on your design and what you want it to look like. So I'm happy with this. How do you want to view your data? By manufacturer, absolutely. And not by product. Okay, you could go ahead and do it backwards if you want to test it out. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to hit finish so I don't spend too much time in the details that might throw you off at this stage. Remember, my objective is to keep it simple at this stage. So I'm going to hit finish. Okay, so it's going to generate the form. It takes a little bit. There you go. There you go. Now, I'm going to have to make some visual adjustments for this. So because I have a scroll bar that looks like I have to scroll all the way. So I've got a lot of room on the right-hand side to make this a little wider. So what it's doing, it's showing me that I have a manufacturer, like in this case, Cisco. Okay, I don't have any products. So if I have remember the navigation at the bottom here? The next record shows me which other manufacturer do I have. Aha, but IBM, I do have a product called Gizmo 200 under the IBM. This is great because now the data is linked, right? With that one-to-many relationship. Let's go to Microsoft. Same thing. Okay, so it's got Gizmo 100 in there, right? I don't have more manufacturers than that, but I'm going to make the product, notice this is the subform here, a little wider. So I am still going to edit this form to make it include some of the fields so I don't have to scroll like this, okay? So I can go to design view, right? And as you can see, let me line up. Let me just move this guy a little bit to the side here. There you go. And just make my form a little wider. And look at this form right here, which is really this one. And let's see if I can make it, actually, if I can drag this one right here. There you go. About this far for now. Now let's go ahead to view mode. Okay, so we're going to go to form We can click here actually. And let's say form view. Here you go. I went a little too far, so I have extra fields here so I can narrow it down. But notice all the fields that I need: product ID, product name, description, and unit price are there. So let me just make a small adjustment. So go back to form design, right? And just make this one a little smaller, just by a little bit, just about right here. Now let's see how that works. So I'm going to go ahead to form view. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to sit here and, unless it's your project, go ahead and sit down and do some quality work here. I'm just trying to push the idea here, what's going on. Now, let's say Microsoft has one more product. Can I add more product from Microsoft? Yeah, Gizmo, 230, another Play platform, maybe product name, or call it mouse if you want. There you go. Right? IO device. Okay. And then go ahead and put a price. And that would be, let's say, $4. I'm good with that. Okay. Right? So these are your products. Now let's say I want a new manufacturer. I can click here. And let's put a new manufacturer. And let's say Intel. So this would be Intel. I'm not going to put addresses. I can update that later. But let's say we have a product ID G23, product name micro processor, and then you could do a 64-bit quad processor, something like this, and then give it a price here of $145, right? So it's fine. Okay, good. So I was able to create a new manufacturer and a product under that manufacturer. I could do more products if needs be, but as you can see here, I have a logical interface, right, where I can actually update products, add products, remove products if needs be, etc., etc. For any manufacturer, or if I don't have a manufacturer, I can add them here. So let me hit save, and now what we're going to do is we're going to conclude by verifying that indeed we have these products under the product table. So I'm going to go to a product table, and sure enough, the mouse is there, IO device, and I have a microprocessor right there, right? That is under INTC. Notice it automatically sets up the manufacturer ID. Let's go to manufacturers. Here they are. So I have a new manufacturer, Intel, right? And didn't add any others. So as you can see, it automatically updates for you as needed. So forms are really a great tool to manage your database. Okay, so as you can see, I have 3 forms. Really, I have one for client and 2 forms that work together called manufacturer and product subform. This is the form subform. So the way you use the manufacturer form is you're going to have to click on the manufacturer form. Do not click on the product subform. Okay, so avoid double clicking on product subform. Okay, because what would happen there? You will get something like this. Right? That is not what we want. We want to make sure that it is related to the manufacturer. So you want to do this. That way you have the manufacturer plus the products that belong under that manufacturer. Okay, so on that, I conclude this video. The next video, we're going to improve on these designs even more.